Alright, how's it going, guys? This is me more in my natural state than the last video. You can see I'm 6 tabling at the 5 cent, 10 cent limit. Still low stakes, and here I've made the idiot end of the straight, so I'll give it a call, who knows. But he's got it, so that's okay. I pay off a little bit. I like to pay off. I am a payoff wizard sometimes. But it was so likely that he could be betting a different type of hand that it's worth paying 20 cents there to see what he's got. And some pretty standard folds. Over here I can't play pocket fives against the 3-bet. I will take note of Kese because he's 3-bet me twice actually already, and obviously he likes running over people. So we'll keep an eye out and see how he's acting in the future. Nice big pot for him though, uncontested. It's definitely a good strategy to be 3-betting when there's a lot of chips out there already, because players at these stakes get there's exceptions, but there are many players at these stakes that get very uncomfortable in 3-bet pots and have a lot of trouble continuing without very good cards, and they don't necessarily have very good cards just because they raised or called a raise. So it's definitely a good strategy to be going after those pots once in a while. Usually you want to have at least suited and connected cards, or something along the lines of a decent pocket pair, so that if you are called you still have some equity, you're still doing decently well, or you still have a decent chance. Obviously 2 high cards is also good, but it is a good idea to go after those pots from time to time, and you'll see me doing the same thing. Here I'm getting 3-bet again, and pocket nines just isn't strong enough when I don't know much about the player. As the game dynamic develops, if he's 3-betting me a lot, pocket nines could be a hand that I would actually go with, but most of the time, if I make a big raise and get called with pocket nines, I'm either crushed or I'm racing, and that's not really the situation you want to be putting yourself in. You want to be looking for spots where you're crushing your opponents, or the only chance is that you're crushing or racing, as opposed to spots where you could be a very big underdog and at best you're a 50% chance, or a little over 50% chance. When you have a pocket pair, someone has 2 overcards, you're a little bit more than a 50% chance, but not enough to make it a very profitable situation. Here I'm going to 3-bet. This player seems very loose, so I'm thinking he's more likely to call my 3-bet than most players are. And also it's just king's in position. He didn't even make a full standard raise. I want to get some money in. And wow. Okay, we're getting a big pot over here. Jody has come over the top of my 3-bet. Now that's pretty strong, but I'm not folding kings. There's a lot of different hands that my opponent could have, so I'm going to make another raise, and I'm getting it in, obviously. And here, same story. And we're up against queens here, so that's nice. Hopefully they don't hit a flush. They don't. It's good, and our opponent folds here, so that's fine. Here we're getting a good price with king jack suited to make the call with 2 players in. It's important there that my hand is suited, because suited cards have, in multi-way pots, they have the ability to make strong draws that you can then push your opponents with, in addition to their pair value. So it's good to have suited cards when you're making an overcall there. Obviously, if I had a stronger hand, like even king queen or ace queen, then I'd still be interested in continuing even if it wasn't suited. But with a hand like King Jack, you're often dominated, so the suitedness really adds a lot of value to your cards. Ace Queen out of position isn't great, but I'll play it. And GameStick has 3-bet me again. Ace 10 is not the hand I want to take to war, but you can expect me to make a big 4-bet sometime soon against him with any kind of cards. Probably the next opportunity I get. You can't let players just 3-bet you over and over and over again, especially not when they're right on your left, because they have the opportunity to 3-bet you almost every hand. And if you're consistently folding every time you raise, then they're going to be making a lot of money off of you, and you're going to be losing a lot of money. Kese here is definitely a looser player, and again, same story as before. I want to make a raise, even though I'm in position and my hand is only queens. I want to get him along because I've identified him as a looser player that's likely to play with a hand weaker than queens, even against a 3-bet. And he re-raises. Normally I wouldn't be getting queens in, or not in a rush to get queens in, but again, I've identified him as a looser player, so I'm going to give it a shot. And we'll see what he has. That king doesn't bode well for me, but it's okay. Oh, and he has aces, so unfortunately we get stacked when we were far behind. But I stand by that play. Kese is just being a loose, aggressive player at the table, and seems like the type of player where queens might be good. So I'm going to be making shoves with queens against players like that, because otherwise they'll just run you over. And when a king hits on the turn, my hand is still pretty strong, but there's a lot of draws, and obviously I could be beat by a king. There's a lot of 2-pair opportunities there. I'm still going to make another bet, but I'm going to be very wary continuing in this hand. And he shoves, so unfortunately I put in some money and have to fold. No sense calling here. It's very unlikely that my hand is good. But I will take a note of him. He's playing with less than a full stack, and in 34 hands he's entered 42% of them without raising. So it's very likely that he is a weaker player. Excuse me. So it's important to take notes of players like that at the table. That being said, getting into an all-in confrontation with second pair usually isn't the best plan even against those players. Those players will often call a lot, but they're very rarely going to be raising a lot when they have weak hands. Oh, here we got straight versus straight, flopped straight versus turned straight. Unfortunate for Ben, but you can see that, well, they were in the blinds, so it's not that rare to see them playing those kind of hands. Under the gun, king jack suited is a fold. At some tables, especially if there's some loose players in the blinds, I'm very likely to raise with king jack suited there. Unfortunately, the only loose player in the blinds is also very aggressive, which actually makes weak, like borderline hands like king jack suited, even worse. And this is a good spot again where I'm getting decent value for a suited connector, and you don't always want to play those spots, but it is a good chance to get in cheap and see if you can hit something big. Obviously on this flop I missed. Now that I have a flush draw, I may fight for this pot if it's checked to me. Yeah, I'm going to take a stab at this pot with my flush draw. It's very believable bet because often, even with a strong hand, you will check to the razor on the flop. And so it's very believable that I have something there. And as you can see, both players fold very quickly. So that's nice. Jack 7 suited strong enough to raise. Game Sticks has been 3-betting me a lot, so I will definitely throw in a 4-bet if he 3-bets me here. Even with a weak hand like Jack 7 suited, it's good to throw in some 4-bets from time to time. And the big blind has been tight at that table, so it's another reason to raise. But I'm looking for a hand now, suited, connected type cards, where I can 4-bet Game Sticks when he 3-bets me. I'm really looking forward to doing that with any type of hand. Again, Jack 9 suited here is strong enough when you've got two people in already. You can call and try to hit something strong. I'm going to fold pocket 2s here just because I've been raising a lot on this table. And I mean, pocket pairs are great, but pocket 2s is the least powerful. And from time to time, it's good just to let a small pocket pair go. Excuse me for my cough. It's actually just started very recently, and I didn't expect it to be continuing. So I apologize. Oh wow, big draw, and he hit. You can see these are the type of players that I want to be playing against. They're both in a lot of pots. They're mixing it up. They're putting lots of money. Well, J-Hole Patton has only been in at the table for 9 hands, and he won some money and left. So you'll see that from time to time, hitting rounds. But Dengen Bolan, or however you pronounce that, has been playing a lot of pots, limping in, and flat calling raises. It's definitely the type of player I'm happy to have position on. Loose Leaf and Leroy Joy are also that type of player as well, or seem to be so far. It's a little too early to tell with this table. They could just, if either one of them could have just hit out a hot run of cards when we playing the way they are. On the turn, my bottom pair goes up a lot in value when the top pair pairs, and he's done nothing but check yet, so I have no reason to think that he has a good hand. So I might as well protect my small pair and take down the pot. When you bet, you always want to know why you're betting, and in that case, I wasn't really betting to get called. There is a chance that he'd call with a hand that I was beating, but really I was betting because he probably had 6 outs to hit a hand better than mine, i.e. basically his pair outs, and I already had a made hand, so I want to defend the hand that's there and force him to either pay for his draw or fold. And Jod's 3-betting me. I'm going to let it go. Who knows what's going on there, but no sense getting too crazy. And here I folded King Jack suited. Sometimes I play that, sometimes I fold. Just depends on what the situation is. Actually, if I thought more about it, I would have played, because Nurmi is a loose, aggressive type player, and you want to mix it up with them if you can, when you have decent cards. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about where profit comes from when you're playing small stakes poker. Obviously, profit comes from outplaying your opponents, from making good hands and getting paid off, from folding when you're beat, and doing these things better than your opponents. That's all part of it. But a big part of profit at the lowest stakes comes from rakeback. And Pokerstars doesn't actually have rakeback, but they have the VIP program, which does give you cash bonuses and all sorts of incentives to play a lot. Debatable whether it's worth as much as rakeback. I certainly like playing on sites with rakeback more, but it definitely is a valuable reward system. And most of your profit when you're playing at these stakes is going to come from rakeback, because the rake is such a significant portion of each pot, much more so than at higher stakes. It really adds up at the low stakes, and you need to be taking advantage of that rakeback by playing a lot of hands. The best thing you can do at low stakes, as long as you're a winning player, is to just get in as many hands as possible. Even if you're a losing player, it's a good bet to get in as many hands as possible and get the experience of playing. Get the experience of playing on multiple tables at once. Get used to the speed of the games and making fast decisions. And get the volume in, because that volume is going to do many things. First of all, if you're a winning player, the more hands you play, realistically, the more money you'll win. So obviously, maximizing the number of hands you play is best. Secondly, the more hands you play, the more rakeback or VIP bonuses you'll get, which is huge, and can make up a significant profit. I know I've had months where I've barely broken even at the tables, and I've made over $1,000 in rakeback. Now that's not at these stakes, but it's not much higher than these stakes. And you can certainly make a decent profit off of just rakeback alone. That's too bad. You have to bet there with top set, but it is somewhat unlikely that you're getting called. Big flush draws, and maybe if he gets stubborn with a pair or an overpair. But that's about it. And here there's been Two players are in and they both check twice. I should have taken advantage of this earlier, but I'm going to bet now. Most likely I'll see two folds. Yeah, when you see players that are just seemingly not interested, especially in a raised pot, when they're just checking and checking, it's really important that you go after those pots, that you make bets. Now, on the river is actually the worst time to do it, because players are kind of suspicious of river bets when there's been no betting yet in the hand. Unless a card comes on the river that significantly changes everything, they're going to expect you to be bluffing a large percentage of the time. And when you are bluffing, the last thing you want is your opponents to suspect you or have an increased reason to suspect you bluffing. So I actually played that badly. The worst time to make the play that I made was on the river. I should have made the play on the turn. That being said, it worked out fine. Both players folded. And a lot of the time when players are just checking and checking and checking, any bet of a reasonable size. It is important to make a reasonable sized bet, but any bet of a reasonable size will take the pot. A large percentage of the time. And I didn't raise here in the big blind with King Jack suited or King Jack offsuit. An argument could definitely be made for raising there. It is a strong hand, and the other player had only limped in. But I like to see flops, and it's not a strong enough hand that you're losing much value by not raising. And there are players at these stakes that limp strong hands, so you have to be wary of that as well. Yogi Berra isn't one of those players. He seems to be a pretty loose passive player, but all the same. Now, one thing I want to talk about, and I'll actually do it as I talk about it, is color coding opponents. This is a very useful thing to do at these stakes, and I have a color system that I'll explain as I go. The light green that I put on loose leaf is for loose passive or fishy type players. They're not always loose passive, but they're definitely my targets at the table. And for a reg that I don't know much about, but that I know is a reg, I know is like a decent player who plays a lot of hands, or plays a lot of tables and stuff like that, Jaws Laval, will get a blue. You can see Jan's whatever already has a blue from earlier play. And the importance of doing this, even if you have a tracker which gives you a lot of information, is that when you're looking at tables in the lobby before you sit down, you can actually target tables that have players you've identified as green or yellow. Yellow for me is loose and aggressive, but not good loose and aggressive. Good loose and aggressive I code orange, and you don't see very many good loose aggressive players at these stakes. Most of the loose aggressive players at these stakes are going to be donkeys. There are exceptions. There are some very good loose aggressive players, but at these stakes, the majority of loose aggressive players you see are going to be donkeys, and players that you want to take money away from. Because someone's going to get their money, so it might as well be you. And here, Nurmi is another green. And May Prey is actually a pink. I use pink for players that are very tight. And you don't mind a pink or two at your table. It's certainly better than a blue at your table. Because they're just not going to be fighting with you that much to get the money from the bad players. They're just not going to be involved in as many pots, and so you're free while you're at the table to take away money from the bad players without really worrying about them too much, because you can count on them having a hand when they come in. Now, normally out of position, pocket fives would be a fold to a raise, or often, but because we're so deep stacked, I wanted to take a peek at the flop. Now that it's come down, I'm done with the hand. I don't really need to fight with another deep stack player out of position. And here, I'm definitely going to 3-bet. And yeah, there's no reason to be fighting there. We flop nothing, but it's still worth a continuation bet. A lot of players will be playing pretty straightforward in 3-bet pots, and so if they miss this flop, they're going to be folding. Obviously, if they have a pocket pair, I'm in trouble, and that looks to be the case right here. Both of them are in, which is rare. Often you get two folds in that situation. But we'll fold and see what they have. Jacks and ace king. So ace king, same as us, and jacks. Pretty strong hands, so an unfortunate time to have 3-bet, but nothing wrong with that. And I may have identified Max Prey incorrectly. He's been mixing it up a lot in the past couple hands, so I don't know what's going on with him, but we'll soon find out. And this table seems to be dying. Don't really have much interest in playing short-handed when I'm playing this many tables. It just becomes I need to focus too much of attention on the short-handed game compared to the other tables. It's just not worth it unless there's a real really bad player involved in the short-handed match. And now that I consider it, Nurmi is definitely qualifies, so I will continue to play as long as he's at the table. But I don't really like playing short-handed when I have this many tables on the go. Yeah, and it's really important, guys, if you like these videos, if you want to see more videos, for comments, or if you click the like button, or if you subscribe to my channel, really makes it a lot easier for me to continue making videos when I know that there's people out there watching them, when I know there's people out there getting something from them. I'm certainly going to continue no matter what anyway, but the more messages I get, the more fun it is, and the more likely I am to be posting videos quickly. I still need to get a microphone, so hopefully I'm trying to be really careful with the sound quality on this one. Hopefully it's better than last time, but it'll certainly improve in the future. I'm definitely going to be investing in a microphone. Just haven't gotten to the store yet.